And so the next layer for us is around getting some growers from the room to share some of their experiences and respond to questions and things you might have on your mind, really create a space for dialogue. So I'd like to invite a few people up to the front. As you come up the front, I'll talk about you, so there's plenty of time to do that. So I'd like Ryan Densley, Sarah Huntley, Nick Paterniti to come and join us up the front. Sarah's an apology. Okay, cool. So we'll start with Ryan and Nick for now. And just a bit of a background. So Ryan is the commercial business manager at Virginia Farm Produce in South Australia. He's in charge of exporting onions and potatoes, as well as the new product development for both domestic and export markets. And Nick is the export manager at Odeum Farms in Western Australia. So Nick is in charge of exports of all fruit and vegetables for Odeum into a number of different markets throughout Asia and the Middle East. So welcome, gentlemen. You will have official ownership of that particular weapon. And so the way we're going to do this is we've got one roving mic, which the guys have got, and this one as well. So for the purpose of kind of the setting up the video a little bit with the resources we have, when you do have a question, so as we go through the conversation, I might repeat it in here and then the guys can respond. But to start with, what we'd love to hear from you is just a bit of a background of your experience in the export trade and some of the kind of opportunities and challenges you've had over the time.
So Virginia Farm Produce is a potato and onion grower. We're quite diverse. We have potatoes, onions, livestock and almonds. So we export all of those commodities. We have 80,000 acres of land in Virginia, and that gives us, we trade across 2 microclimates. So we can actually wash potatoes 12 months of the year. Okay, so between that and onions, which would be our second commodity, beef is exported and we actually market our almonds. So
yeah, Odeum Farms is a Western Australian company, and we're growers, consolidators and marketers of a range of different fresh produce lines. I've been at Odeum for past 18 months. We've been around for about 20 years and supplying Australia's chain stores nationally for that time, and in the past sort of 5 years, I guess the company's really invested into developing new sales channels as part of their strategy to diversify risk. So in that, they've acquired a food service business, a market floor, and also taken the step to develop export sales. So yeah, I started that 18 months ago, and our main lines are, we've got investments into farms that grow Brussels sprouts, tomatoes, sugar snap peas, snow peas, strawberries and some melons as well. And yeah, over the past 18 months, we've developed sales into 10 countries, so Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, China, Indonesia, Dubai, Qatar, Hong Kong, a couple of others. And yeah, main lines, Brussels sprouts to South Korea, so that's been interesting, and strawberries and melons into Southeast Asian and Middle Eastern markets.
it's probably good, where we talked about it before, having a strategy. We've written a strategy at Virginia Farm Produce, and our strategy will be that in 3 years our export market will be bigger than our domestic market. So I know the team's going to actually hit that goal. It's quite exciting. Export is massive. So we're very export driven.
And so what's the big driver for you in that shift? So when you think about that kind of audacious goal, what's the big driver behind that for you?
We just find that at the moment there's a lot of merging markets. Yeah. So domestically we can only go so far. Export is exponential.
Right. Thanks very much. So what questions from the audience? This is the dialogue for you. So what's on your mind you'd like to ask our friends at the front? Yeah? So the question, what is the biggest barrier to that goal?
Look, in trade, I guess there's a lot of different market accesses which we have problems with. We're more concerned about biosecurity. That would be what we're concerned about mainly. 80,000 acres, you can build up all of these, trade, and then all of a sudden you have a problem. That's what we're concerned about.
guess for me, the challenge or the barrier there would be that we, what I found over the past sort of 18 months is that we've been sort of fairly tightly restricted to seasonal opportunities. So while we're grabbing those and trying to maximise those, it's that's probably our number one challenge, and being able to compete on price with, you know, not companies over east, but you know, cheaper producing markets as well. So the Chinas and South Africas and countries like that.
We go invest heavily into
Sorry.
construction.
Sorry, what's that? Sorry.
So the problem with, I guess, you know, with labour and cost, we've had to invest heavily into automation.
Great, thank you. Another one up the back.
Yeah, so we have spoken a bit about investment today, investing in business for export. Could you guys give us some examples of some investments you've had to make in your businesses to make export work?
Yeah, we've just invested 24 million into a new shed that's export focused. We also did a land acquisition of 10,000 acres ready for export as well. So that's the sort of numbers that, you know, that we're talking about getting ready for the future.
We're probably a little bit smaller than general produce. So for us,
That's good. We get two perspectives.
Most of that 24 million salary. For us, the investment is really in people. You know, we've had to bring on new staff to drive the exports, and also investment into developing the markets. It takes market visits, it takes market research. All of that is at a cost. There's things like export market development grants which help, but that for us has really been the main investment.
It's useful to hear from the perspective of investment. Have there been any particular initiatives? You know, you think about a growers group, you think of AUSVEG and those kind of bodies. Any initiatives that have helped along with that? Like, have there been anything?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Call out.
So AUSVEG, certainly with you know, Coot and Andrea and the team over there, we've been lucky enough to participate in some of their missions. So they run a series of international trade missions to various trade shows. There's a couple in Dubai, World of Perishables and Gold Food. There's one in Japan, FoodX. What's the Food and Hotels in Singapore? Asia Fruit as well. So it's always good to especially as a new exporter, to jump on those and learn who's doing what and how they're branding themselves, how they're marketing, how they're packaging. All that sort of stuff is really sort of invaluable. Connections. Yeah, that's the one. Also, utilising the Austrade offices and well, for me, I've really utilised the WA state government offices overseas. They've been quite helpful as well. I've used the guys in Dubai, South Korea, China, and Japan, and they're all really helpful. Yeah, there's a lot of support out there, so it's just a matter of going to find it and making the most of it.
Yep.
With regards to collaboration, are you guys collaborating with other growers, or I guess Ryan, you guys are probably big enough, but Nick, we're not.
Yeah, we do.
So just use the mic. Just use the mic.
Sorry. Yeah, we certainly do. I mean, just in order to sort of try and supply for the best part of 12 months or as close to as possible. We've got partnerships with farms up and down Western Australia that we sort of work with, particularly, you know, things like rock melons, which I think you used to grow. So that season changes from Kununurra, Carnarvon, and then down south to Perth as well. So we work with farms up and down, just purely to keep it all moving, really.
You would be happy that we are open to collaboration.
What are some of the like getting that started? What's that like for you? Because, you know, like starting that collaboration is sometimes the hard bit. You know, once you kind of start working together, you get a flow. But just getting the ball rolling, what was the story like for you?
Well, I guess for me, I was sort of a little bit lucky in that you know, we're a sort of well-established business, and a lot of those partnerships, well, a lot of the lines that we move were already in place, and so a lot of those partnerships are already there. So it's just a matter of me trying to. It's been a little bit of a challenge trying to change the mentality towards an export mentality as opposed to you know, just for domestic supply. There's a lot of negative I don't know, connotations that go with that. So that's been probably one of the biggest challenges. I guess it's just a inherently risk-averse sort of attitude.
How did you work through some of those challenges around people's attitudes and shifting their mindset?
You've really got to take the risk on yourself and show them that it can work.
So a bit of skin in the game.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's important that your export business, your export business really has to run totally separate to your domestic. You know, you've got foods and all.
Okay, so that's a commitment piece. Another one at the back.
With the export, is there like a different sort of, you know, like grading, you know, when you're sending your produce, different specs and that?
So the question is around differences in grading and specs for produce for export versus domestic?
Yeah. So what we have, a lot of the product that we wash for domestic, for supermarkets, there's a lot of byproduct that we actually export, so we're very lucky. You know, in potatoes, I'm not saying all crops, but we find that the domestic and export go hand in hand, two different specs.
Every Brussels sprout has to be the exact same size, perfectly round. It's a bit of a challenge. They do like them to be, you know, looking perfect. That's exaggeration, but you know, it depends on the line. For strawberries, for example, you know, they export markets prefer them to be sort of 70% colour, whereas if we supplied that domestically, it'd be rejected. So it depends on the line. I know pumpkins, different sizing in different markets as well. So yeah, definitely a difference.
How does that help for the question that was asked? Does that help give you additional insight, or what was the? Another question?
Ryan, you were talking about your export business being separate to domestic business. What effect do you guys think your export businesses have had on your domestic sales?
Cheese, Claire. Slim. No. Can you say it again for me, Claire?
So how do you think has export helped or hindered your domestic business?
It's helped, you know, because, like I said, what happens in potatoes, we wash a very, very high spec for the domestic market, and that gives a lot of byproduct that we can then export. So I guess it's definitely helped.
Well, for us, for Brussels sprouts specifically, last season there was a TPP thing that was sort of happening that caused a few issues for us to get stock over east. So domestic sales had slowed down, and it was our first season exporting Brussels last year. So that really helped us to move some of the volume that we were really going to be struggling to move without export markets, I think. So, yeah.
So, more questions? Yep.
Government was putting money into the Virginia area to help develop export. Is that working as a reality?
So the question is around South Australian government funding into the Virginia area, and is that working? What's that playing out like?
Wow. Yes, there is a lot of support at the moment. There's export is it's a buzzword. You know, it's definitely in the Virginia area itself. There's a lot of projects. There's a water project going on. There's export grants available for people at the moment. So it's a really big push in that area. So the government's been well, we've just got a change of government after 17 years or something, but it's a very big push.
Anything? Got nothing? Okay. Yeah. So there was one. I got a couple of prompted questions here that may be useful for others around when you got started. You mentioned that there was a big investment in people. When you get started in the export space, did you have all the capability, the things you needed? Did you have to outsource some of it? What was the kind of logistics of getting the capability you needed in-house to change the way that you worked?
Well, for us, the export business was really set up as a business within the business. So, and that is like a small new business. So, really, we Odeum brought myself and another guy on to start. I used to work for TradeStart, so I had a bit of knowledge in sort of helping businesses establish an export footprint, and the other guy that they hired had more of the hands-on sort of produce trading experience. And between us, we sort of just tried to work it out, really. As I said, as a small business, you try and get the ball rolling as best you can on as tight a budget as you can, and go from there. And once you get momentum, maybe then you can start looking at outsourcing stuff. So we've done that now, creation of a website and things like that. Yeah.
How about in your experience?
Yeah, we've invested a lot in people for our export program. So I make it really clear that we do run an export totally separate to our domestic. So we've got people, we've invested in that, and we'll continue to do so.
Great, thank you. More questions? Yep.
Can you just tell us a little bit more about your brands and how you're positioning them in the market? What futures you think of those brands?
Yeah, we created a brand called Koala Brand, which we've pitched as our premium export brand. Koala Brand, I don't know, synonymous with all things Australia, particularly in Asia. So and that's one that we've run with, and we find that it works quite well. How do we position it? It's really, I mean, for the most part, for the Koala Brand, we're positioning that as premium only, so high end sort of stuff. I guess the more commodity based products wouldn't go in that brand because it's just a difference. So.
Our brand is Kangaroo Station, so we're quite lucky. The actual station, it's very marketable. We've got a lot of acres with kangaroos and all of that. So we actually export directly to Costco globally with that brand, and it's a very easy sell for us. Kangaroo Stations. Beautiful.
How does so on the same kind of topic, how does that play out for you when you consider things like the Trade Australia piece and those kinds of things? What we've seen today. Thank you.
Look, I think it all goes into the messaging, really. Someone talked about provenance earlier. Being Australian, you're automatically seen as a premium product. Mm-hmm. Buyers generally know, for the most part, that your product isn't going to be the cheapest on the market, so they know where it's going to be pitched. So anything that you can grab to use and to showcase that you are an Australian product, I think why not go for it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How did you go with yours, Nick?
That was great. Yeah.
Additional questions? Yeah, up the back.
The koala bear patentable.
There's been a challenge from the audience. Is the koala patentable?
Yes.
There you go.
Not the koala bear, but I mean the koala brand. It's more like you can do like design, IP protection on design. So brand design. So you can't patent. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Much like the Australian-made kangaroo, things like that. There's it's a kangaroo, but it's still a trademark.
Cool. So I've got a question. There's an opportunity in this space to learn from each other and learn from what's presented. and we've had a number of different keynote presentations and examples of what's happening in the industry. So, kind of question without any preparation, what are your takeaways from today? What did you learn from today that you can put into action and take back to work?
I think it's just it's good to learn that there's so many that are keen to explore export. I think it's as I think Diane said, it's something that we need to be looking at as a country, and I think the more collaboration that that can come from these things, the better. So yeah.
Have a plan. That's what I got.
Okay.
Have a plan.
How does your plan stack
Have a
up?
plan and just stick to it.
No, for you, think of where you are on your journey.
Yeah.
What happened with what's the story of your plan and where it's at now?
When I first started at Virginia, I wrote within the first week, I wrote the export plan, and that takes us right through to 2020. Yeah. We've actually committed every milestone we've hit so far. So it was a big plan, but it's a plan. Stick to it.
Cool. Great. Yeah.
Do you guys come across any issues with excess packaging? I mean, nationally at the moment, getting rid of supermarket, grocery bags, we're trying to go more greener and everything on supermarket shelves. Do you find that happening exporting as well? So I've got a friend, she lives over in Thailand. She started this big group of people, and they're basically protesting against packaging that's coming out from Australia and other places into their supermarkets. Do you find that's something that you come across?
So just for the guys at the back, the question is around: are you getting any feedback, pushback around packaging coming from Australia? Do you have any challenges with excess packaging? Does that capture the question?
So obviously it's very topical, the whole packaging. So, as a team, we're just working for the future that we're going to try and remove all bad plastics. Unfortunately, in potatoes, there's a lot of extruded plastic that we use in netting and those sort of things. So it's a big project. We're going to try and do it. We think we have to jump against the curve because there is pushback nationally, internationally, on plastic generally.
I grow a lot of greens, so shelf life, is always a challenge for us to extend.
It's going to take a long time. I think it's a technology, and we all like to do it to a biodegradable or a degradable plastic, but sometimes the tech's just not quite there, and it's not.
And people don't really want to put money up to make it biodegradable.
You can have compostable and all those things, but sometimes the actual energy that's needed to degrade that plastic is just not going to work.
Yeah.
At the moment.
Thank you. Yep.
Two questions. One is cellophane classified as an organic package?
So sorry, the question is cellophane regarded as a organic plastic? You'd have to get a plastics expert. Is there someone who knows? No? Okay. I'll take it offline. Possible, yeah. I'm seeing people nodding with potential, right? Yep, in the middle. The koala theme's a big one.
You can ask the 40 delegates that Michael's got with him at the moment. It came through last year. Is it? We've got at least one.
So, you didn't think you were being put on a fire today, did you?
Yeah. There's a couple at the zoo.
Yeah. Okay. What other questions do you have? Yep.
So we were talking about spending money investing in visiting your market. How much travel do you guys actually do? So how often do you get over to see customers?
Okay, so question around travel and getting close to your customers.
It really depends. So for me, I was trying to develop new business into China at the start of this year. So I took 3 trips there in the space of 2 months. So I went twice for a few days to meet the customer, or meet a bunch of customers, meet the customer again, and then again when our first shipment landed. I'll probably go next year, maybe just once. And the other markets, Singapore being one of our main markets, I try and get to at least once a year. Dubai probably once or twice a year as well. I think the more you can do, the better. It's whatever you can do within your budget. But I think at a very minimum, it should be at least one visit per market per year. I would say, ideally 2.
Yeah, hectic. I would say monthly there would be travel, internationally, not for long periods of time, but definitely we try and get out a lot. Yeah. So we've just brought out a new concept for the export market, which is a bakeable and microwavable bag, non-compostable. And that's probably taken 8 months, 9 months to actually get it, formulate it, get the artwork, trial it. So I think 8 months is good. That's good going. Could take years.
That's all he's got. Yep.
Yes, what would you share with us, whatever you're comfortable with, around pricing in market conversations around fruit are very different to conversations around vegetables. So that tension between pricing and how vegetables are perceived in export markets, how do you approach a new buyer and get them interested in what you're offering and carry that through?
So questions around approaching a new buyer and that conversation around pricing and some of the tension between expectations of vegetables in the market.
Well, I think it's really important to understand your costs first, and I think Diane again mentioned to know what you're sort of comfortable with, what your floor would be. You might need to go in a little bit lower to win some business, but generally for us, I found that the export pricing hasn't varied a lot from what the domestic market price is. So on occasion you can have some wins, but it's generally been pretty much the same anyway.
For us, we work on, it's more tonnage, so we know our numbers, we know what it costs to produce a ton of potatoes a packet. So we go for more set pricing, like 12-month pricing or 6-month pricing. Seasonal is how we structure our business.
You mentioned, consistency of supply earlier, and so I was just wondering if you've had any, what experience you've had with disruption to supply and the impact that it might have had.
So experiences around disruption to supply.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. We grow over to a couple of different locations to try and take out that risk. Virginia had a flood two years ago, but we're still able to produce potatoes by pulling them in from a different farm. So it's always there. There's always, but you try and get yourself set up that you consistently deliver a product time and time again, and sometimes that takes, by broadening, your farming operation if you can, what you might do to just make sure that risk isn't there.
Yeah, we haven't really been successful at this point in locking in any program pricing. We tried, it didn't really work for us. I think for us, still we're new, so we're really trying to understand, the sort of the windows in which we're going to be able to compete as well. So that's probably a little bit too early for us. But I'd just suggest to under promise and over deliver.
Thank you. And
Would you say you spend most of
So, question around time spent, the split between developing new markets or maintaining and working with current markets.
Yeah. Probably working with the people that we work with, trying to build that relationship is easier sometimes than going to find new customers. Because you really got to start to understand what they want, what product works in a different country, how that's going to market it. It takes a long time to start to have that conversation with your customer, like how do we position it, where is it going to be, what's the price, what's the recommended retail price. All of those things are long conversations, and it's easier having it with, I believe, the customers I already have.
Again, being new, I sort of still see all of our customers as relatively new, 18 months, not sort of long established relationships like what Ryan probably has. So yeah, I'm just trying to build on every sort of commercial relationship that I have, as well as as part of our strategy and plan. We plan to be in China this year, and that does take a lot of time, but I think it's probably, in terms of a split, maybe 70% trying to increase our current markets and about 30 for new markets.
And up the back, I think I saw.
You said that you collaborate with other growers. I'm just wondering how challenging that was, and what sort of steps you take to avoid risk.
So there's a question around some of the challenges around collaboration and the steps you take to avoid risk.
So the challenges are really, as I sort of alluded to earlier, I think changing the mentality to, because a lot of the people that we've sort of worked with haven't exported or had any experience in export in the past, and a lot of people have heard bad things about export. A lot of people have been burnt or know someone that's been burnt. So trying to change that mentality has been a challenge. Some of the people that we work with are experienced exporters, and Odeum's worked with them for many years, so that was sort of quite natural and wasn't much of a challenge. The risk, of course, is when something lands in another country, and especially by sea, if it's turned on the journey, that's probably the biggest risk. Whose responsibility is that? It really comes down to relationship. I think you need to be able to work with your partners and talk to them and just be honest. And it's a long game as well. So yeah, I think if you've got a long-term view, and you both got that same long-term view, you work together in cases of that happens.
And Nick, you mentioned, you said don't think we're not open to collaboration. So it'd be interesting to get a perspective of what does it look like for you to collaborate with a new partner, and what are the considerations you have in mind? You think about managing that stuff. For Nick. Oh, right. Oh, sorry, wrong way around.
I guess the collaboration thing's been coming at me all day. Look, at the moment, I guess we're probably in a position, we're farming for 75 years. It's 3 generations. Would we collaborate as far as, I don't know, fuel sharing or something like that? Possibly we would look at. But I think Virginia Farms is big enough and ugly enough now that we'll probably go it alone. So collaborations don't work for everyone, I guess. In some instances they do, but we're here to have the conversation.
Okay. Thank you. Yep, up right at the back.
Do you guys think there's any stomach from people in, say, China or Thailand to help assist SME businesses here financially to get a head start so that you can collaboratively work with them?
So the question around the appetite for others in other countries to actually pick up and support an SME business.
Help feed the koala.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely I know of cases where that's happened. I know of a winery that in WA, for example, that was sort of struggling quite a lot and had some Chinese investment. Chinese bought, but it was still managed by the people that were initially running it, and that opened up a new export market and gave them some capital to grow. So, look, I think if the proposition's valuable enough, why not? But yeah, I don't know.
Some of our customers invest with us. You know, like if we've got a new product, for example, they will co-invest on some of the cost. That's generally all I've got.
Cool. There's another question.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier the Virginia floods that affected potatoes. To both of you, with your export markets, have any of the ports had a natural disaster or something that ceased trade? And if it has, how have you been helped and what have you learned from that?
So the question is around the risk of at port.
Yeah. So I guess how we've managed it is we're farming in two different areas at the same time. And that's the only way we've found that, you know, when the floods came through Virginia, it was devastating. That was 2 years ago, I believe it was. Potato prices went to $1.50, $1.60 a kilo, which was sort of unheard of. But, so what we did is we actually expand our farm. So in Virginia itself, we actually farm in 4 different places around 2 wells, and then we farm outside of Keith. So we had to do that so there was lower risk.
And the question is kind of around kind of that at port piece, yeah? So the destination, yeah, at the destination, have you had any problems or natural disasters at destination port or any of those kind of troubles that you can share?
Yeah, not really, but we're covered by a marine insurance policy, so if anything like that does happen, it's sort of, yeah, and that's a yearly policy as well, which is relatively inexpensive, but yeah, things like that.
Yeah, so I guess, yeah, everyone's got a story, I guess, when you think about it. You know, a reefer blows up or they drop it off the boat, you know, stupid stuff like that happens all the time. But yeah, I'd suggest that a very good insurance policy is needed, you know, to cover yourself on that.
Thank you. More questions? Last chance. I think these 2 gentlemen will be floating around. So if you had a question in mind that you didn't get to, they'll be able to find you, right? So it's Nick and Ryan. Nick and Ryan. Yeah. Yep. So Nick and Ryan, thank you so much for coming up and joining us. Much appreciated.